the sun is just starting to climb up over the treetops. And it's gonna be a beautiful day, that's plain to see.
Welcome to Bill Dance Outdoors, America's most popular and longest running TV fishing show.
Now I've gone fishing with Bill Dance today.
Before we load in this morning, I got to tell you something. I got an email from a fella who said, I was in a Bass Pro Shop store recently and picked up a spool of Cast King's hammer braid and read up on the line, and it stated it was a higher standard in a 4-carrier braid. And my question, Bill, what is meant by 4-carrier? Well, I guess the best way to explain it to you, if you have a daughter or wife, or even your mom, and watched her braid her hair, visualize 4 pieces of line braided into one, which equals a 4-carrier braid. The tighter braid configuration provides a super smooth surface, which allows for a smoother, more accurate cast and longer cast, and even a quieter retrieve through the guides. You know, it has amazing abrasion resistance, which creates better knot strength, and the stretch point, as I've said before, is less than 4% at its breaking point. Now this line has everything you want and more in a premium braided line. And with that said, let's go fishing. I stopped it, busted it. Yes. Tugging little old fish, boy, I'm telling you. Come on back, yeah. All right, come up here. Whoa, I got you, boy. If you'll relax your mouth, I'll get this hook out. Ooh, sharp, sharp hooks. Sharp, sharp hooks. A little fat, baby. Look how fat that snapper is. We're going home. The largemouth bass is perhaps one of the most glamorous species in the freshwaters of the world today. They have a high intellect and a strong instinct for survival. But like all other animals, bass have cycles throughout their lives that cause them to react in a particular manner. The big mouth approaches the physical configuration of the perfect predator with broad, powerful tails, excellent vision, superb hearing, and the ability to maneuver underwater quickly and effectively. And that's the fellow we're going after today. Unlike members of the pike family or trout, the bass is built to probe and forage around logs, rocks, vegetation, and other forms of protective cover. Sometimes these fish will strike their prey from ambush points, and other times they'll simply cruise along, suspended, looking for food. During these times, especially here in the South, their main diet consists of bait fish, like shad, shiners, and bluegill. Now, shad are an important part of the largemouth's diet, and believe it or not, minnows of this type spend the majority of their lives in open water, away from the shoreline. But this is not to say they won't journey into and against the shallow shoreline, because they will from time to time.
Bill Dance Outdoors. Sponsored by Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Your adventure starts here. Rebel, catch fish anywhere. And by Mercury Marine, go boldly.
Today's Conditions Log, brought to you by Wormville, USA, bringing you big fat red worms and night crawlers from the nation's largest worm farm for 30 years. Wormville, USA, fish love 'em.
Where are you going? Whoa, you'll knock yourself out doing that. That hook's got you all hung up, hasn't it? Fat and healthy. Oh, gum. That's a pretty one. Okay, big Betty. Here we go. Toodaloo. You know, we've talked about this before, but it's worth mentioning again. Many anglers actually believe the reason baitfish are found along the shoreline is because wind currents drift them there. Well, there's no truth to that at all. The wind doesn't blow the bait. What happens is when you see shad against the shoreline is that they're feeding most of the time. You know, shad are filter feeders. They're feeding on plankton that the wind has blown in against the bank or a seawall or a bluff or whatever. On the graph are baitfish, and the small inverted B's are bass feeding on them. You'll notice when a school of shad is all busted up, that indicates there's a lot of action going on down there. Okie dokie. Moving along, let me tell you something else. It's important to remember a key to never forget is from the bass's standpoint, and that is a tightly packed school of shad appears as a dense mass of shifting images rather than a static formation of shifting forms. When you see them in a wad like that on your graph, they sometimes string out and they'll form into something large that bass look at and they say they can't comprehend what it is. But if a shad breaks out, a single shad, boom, the bass charges. And they usually feed on one bass or on one shad at a time. They don't just go in there and open their mouth and just fly right through them like a whale. Since most predators like the bass must select and attack one specific victim at a time to be successful, and because each shad in the school looks basically like every other one, it becomes difficult for the bass to zero in on one. Therefore, an isolated bait along the edge of the school makes the best target. Like I mentioned a minute ago, if a shad just breaks out of that large image, what happens? A bass is going to see it and chase it out and catch it. And if the bait looks injured, it stands out even more because it's an irregular swimming movement. And if your offering looks different in shape and size, it's going to stand out and be even more noticeable and productive. Like the lure we've selected to use today. It's a fun bait too, and believe me, it's highly productive fish the way we're using it. It's called a banded deep diving suspended minnow, a lure I've got more confidence in than you would ever imagine. It's made in several sizes and available in several fish catching colors. It's important to get the lure to the correct depth, whether there's a forage movement taking place or just above it. Baitfish aren't found everywhere, and you can bet, when you find an area with them, well, you ought to spend a lot of time fishing it.
Today's show is brought to you by Zebco, teaching America to fish since 1949. Pure Marine Odor Eliminator eliminates foul fish odors from gear, compartments, and empty live wells. And Tracker Boats, fish the finest.
Today's equipment log is brought to you by Gamakatsu, because the fish of a lifetime only comes once in a lifetime. Today's show is sponsored by Monster Marine Lithium. Lighter, stronger, longer. Bill Dance exclusive rods by Quantum. We have an action for you. And by Garmin. Fight your fish, not your fish finder.
There he is, there he goes. That's where he's stopped. Nobody knows. Oh boy, it's a pretty fish there. Come right back here and get you, boy, before you get all up onto that boat. Look at him swimming. You through? Woo! You cut it up, didn't you? Big fat fish. Hello. Hello. All right, let's go home. There are many factors that dictate shad movement other than plankton that is moved about in the lake by natural currents and wind currents. Sudden changes in pH, temperature, water clarity, and lake turnover will and does have an effect on bait fish, just like it does game fish. You know, I'm asked from time to time, how important is it to add an odorant to a crankbait? Well, I honestly feel it makes a difference. You know, it's amazing to me just how long this attractant, bait pop, stays on your lure. But as you work it along, odor molecules of bait pop are emitting a scent trail as it moves through the water. And I've had great success making multiple casts to the same location, creating a scent trail that fish can zero in on. You know, it's kind of like you say to yourself, what's that smell? And you begin to sniff it, and you start walking in that direction that you first detected the odor. And the odor gets stronger the closer you get, especially if you follow it. Well, fish are no different. They detect the odor and they follow it. Each cast emits odor molecules that help them in their search for the source. Now, if the source and the smell is to their liking, they try and eat it. And when you feel that strike, well, I think you know what to do. Stop missing catchable fish. Try bait pop. Okay, tell you what let's do. Let's spend a minute and talk about this, the rod. It takes the right kind of rod to work lures of this type correctly. Longer rods, like a 7-footer or even a 6'10" to a 7-footer, allows for greater casting distance and it won't tire you like a shorter rod. Plus the longer distance gives you better depth control, and a 2-fisted handle allows for better casting leverage. Now, a rod that sports a medium action with a fast tapering tip and a tremendous amount of backbone will give you a much better hook set. So many times I can take this rod and hold it 2 hands and really load it up and make a long cast. This particular rod that we're using, we designed it for Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. It's a Bill Dance exclusive. The length on this one is 6'10". It's got a tremendous amount of backbone. It's got a quick tip, as you can see here, and it tapers down real fast. And the little reel we're using is a little Lew's BB1.
The Bill Dance Question and Answer of the Week, brought to you by Bill Dance Exclusive Rods by Quantum. Whether you're fishing for panfish, bass, catfish, or light saltwater, we have the action for you. Available at Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's.
What would it look like to make the lure you have tied on the most enticing lure in that moment? By simply applying a new product called Bait Pop. Fish Formula has got a great new product that allows you to instantly customize the appearance of your lure while also eliminating repulsive scents and improving sonar return. Now, for more information about this new product, go to baitpop.com.
Today's show is brought to you in part by Cast King Tripolymer and Hammer Braid Fishing Lines, and by Garmin Force Trolling Motors. Fish with force. Closed captioning provided by PowerPole.
The original shallow water anchor. Today's product tip is brought to you by Garmin and their GPS map series, chart plotter sonar combos with their advanced sonar technology, like Panoptic's Live Scope all-seeing sonar. You'll spend less time finding your fish.
What's the most effective way to catch a fish? I catch lots of them with my Ego slider. It's a S2 slider dip net made by Ego that'll reach out there and get them. With a handle that extends out to 5 feet and a 22 by 23 rubber-coated knotless mesh net. An Ego dip net won't catch them every time, but they can surely help when you get your catch close to the boat or shoreline. Check them out at Bass Pro Shops.
Come be part of Bill Dance Digital. Join us on Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, Threads, and YouTube. Follow us.
That is some good smooth line right there. You know, I had an outdoor writer ask me recently what I thought about a new line called Tripolymer. Well, the more I use this line, the more I'm impressed with it. My buddies at Cast King who make it, they say it's not a monofilament or a fluorocarbon. It's the best of both. A brand new higher standard in fishing line. Now, there are 4 key features that set this line so high above other lines that are out there. For instance, low light refraction. It has 3 layers of polymers to create low light refraction properties. Fish won't see it. Another feature is it's extremely smooth, a super smooth line. This line offers 3 quality nylons which deliver a tremendous smooth surface, unlike any other. It casts further with very little friction through your rod guides, creates better castability and accuracy. Another feature, high abrasion resistance. A feature that I really like. The line exhibits abrasion resistance that exceeds traditional and copolymer monofilaments and fluorocarbons up to 2 times. That's right, up to 2 times. And this equates to a greater knot strength and fewer lost lures and fish when you hang up. Now, the other key thing I like about it, low stretch. And listen to this, low stretch. Tripolymer has a stretch factor that averages 12% lower than copolymer. And that lower stretch allows you to feel even the slightest bite. Now, I think you can see why I'm so impressed with it. Yep, Tripolymer truly is one fine fishing line. Speaking of shad a bit earlier, have you ever wondered why baitfish bunch up so tightly in a school? Well, they bunch up like that for survival. It's just that simple. By joining together, they create a large image that looks like a big fish. But perhaps the secret of detection is the odor that all bait emits into the water, and that is detected by the keen sense of smell that the predator possesses. Oftentimes you'll be able to spot submerged schools of baitfish by an oil slick that appears on the surface from the natural discharge of the forage. It's very important to be observant. If the school of baitfish are moving quickly, the oil slick will appear upwind. Naturally, if the concentration is building in one area, the wind currents would drift the slick below them. Oh, it's over with. It's a good fish. Woo, bigger than I thought. Woo. I'm up here. Don't ever juggle with one of these baits. Oh, look at here. In closing, let me say, it's for sure. Baitfish just can't keep a secret. They nearly always tell where the bass are hiding, and that a lot of the bass feeding on them takes place below the surface, out of view, normally in open water. To catch them on a fairly consistent basis, try using some of the techniques that we've discussed. I think you might just be pleasantly surprised at the results.
Thanks for watching Bill Dance Outdoors. Join us here again next week.
Now I've gone fishing with Bill Dance today.